real on a regular basis. During my last trip, I met an emerald dragon and I found these. He took the booklet and the sword out of his pocket dimension. Floria's wand hit the ground and emitted a ting. Did you really fight a dragon? A real one? Big, scaly, and everything else? More like I ran away from him. I'm not stupid. Emperor beasts refer to me as just a wormling, so a full-grown dragon is definitely out of my league. Yet. Floria picked up her wand, using it to examine both the ancient relics. Forge mastering helped her to avoid thinking about the implications Lith's latest revelations held. The sword is an interesting link between old and modern runesmithing, but it sucks. Judging from its runes, it's a teaching prop, Floria said. Nailed in one. Lith gave her thumbs up. What about the book? I only know the 3 great countries' standard language, so this is gibberish to me. As for the magic circles inscribed in here, they are more teaching props. Some of these are powerful spells, others are meh. Do you want me to mark them? Floria asked and Lith nodded for her to proceed. She gave each spell an academy-like score based on her understanding, adding a question point whenever she met a spell beyond her knowledge. Why Hariel had teaching props and how did you understand their use despite being completely oblivious about runes? Again, I'm not stupid. If my theory is correct, Hariel is the 0th Great Academy. He then proceeded to tell her about his findings about the Lost City, turning her surprise into shock. I bet that this knowledge is a state secret as well, so keep it for yourself. Floria nodded, her mind was still a little fuzzy. She had never expected that Lith would actually reply to her questions. Is he being honest with me because he trusts me or because he just wants to get even for my earlier explanation? Gods, the more I learn about him, the less I understand how Lith thinks. Maybe I should just ask him. Her train of thoughts was derailed by Lith exploiting her moment of weakness. In for a penny, in for a pound, he thought. If runesmithing is as important as I think, yonder will not teach me about it unless I become her apprentice or something catastrophic happens. I must strike the iron while it's hot. What do you make of this? Lith asked, showing her the ring that he had received from the fungal creature. You're a horrible person, Solus said. Floria just admitted that she is putting her life in your hands and you can only think about squeezing as much knowledge as you can from her? Solus, let's be honest. I put my life in her hands the day I showed her my other form. Besides, anything I learn can help us to get out of here alive, save Floria from her awakening, and maybe me from my reincarnation problem. I'm morally flexible, yes, but everything I do it for a reason and Floria knows it as well as you do. Where did you find it? It's even crappier than the sword, but this is a different kind of approach to blending old and modern runesmithing. Floria had known Lith for years, yet she still wondered why sometimes a golden light shone behind his eyes. It was the manifestation of Solus's strong emotions. Off the record? Lith asked, receiving a nod of approval. It's a gift. The living fungus gave it to me. It also said a lot of gibberish. I really hope it was just a thank you, because if it shared with me the secrets of Kula, you'll see a grown man cry. And you didn't tell me this before because I knew about runes, I want to learn about runes, and if I told anyone I had found an ancient ODI ring, the army would have taken it from me. Being my friend and my commanding officer, I didn't want to burden you with any more secrets, but since we already got to this point. Floria sighed. She had the impression of being taken advantage of, but she could also understand Lith's reasoning. Her father could provide her with everything she wanted, whereas Lith only had his own cunning and a mountain of secrets. Did you imprint it already? Despite knowing that the ODI used slave items and suspecting some of them might still be alive and kicking? His words were full of sarcasm. This should just be a dimensional item. It's nothing dangerous. She gave the ring back to Lith. A dimensional item with a crystal? Lith couldn't believe his own words. I told you, old runes suck. Now, I need a few moments to collect myself and prepare my spells. We have no idea what lies beyond the gate, so it's better to be prepared for the worst. Lith nodded and started to blurt the first American pop song he could think of as he was seriously considering accepting Yandra's offer. Wait a minute, I still have to talk with the Hydra lady. Maybe she might be able to help me. It's better not to rush into anything. The promise Lith had made to protect her also reminded him about the one with Celia and her threat to kill him if he didn't visit them again. Damn, I don't hear from Camila for almost 2 weeks and winter is almost over. I would need to clone myself to do everything on my list. Are you ready? Floria asked. Yes, Lith replied, stopping in the middle of the chorus. Floria touched the rune with her wand and said a single word. Kron. Lith could see with life vision that her body was emitting pure mana, as if she was using spirit magic. The mana traveled from her cord to her hand and into the wand, filling the rune. It wasn't blue like the one Lith usually emitted, nor emerald green like the legend said. Maybe it was because of the orichalcum wand, but her mana was of pristine white. If this is like the gate the court used, then only one of its sides needs to be powered up since its coordinates are permanently fixed. Lith thought while having the skinwalker armor cover his now scaly throat. Origin flames were more than an instrument of attack, he could also use them to force the gate to collapse in case the necessity arose. A gate as big as the tunnel they were in appeared in front of them. On the other side, there was a room entirely made of metal. Every building in Kula seemed to follow such design choice, making Lith wonder if the ODI did it to avoid them being breached with earth magic or simply because they lacked the mana necessary to protect them all with the earth-blocking array. Even if they knew about awakened ones, the mana geyser provides them both a perfect cover from above and all the world energy they needed. Unless they were already using most of its power for some experiment. Lith thought. By the Great Mother, Floria said. The ODI word associated with the warp rune was meat shields, an accurate definition for the purpose of such a place. 1. Supreme Magus. Chapter 668 Meat Factory Part 2. The gate opened in the bottom right corner of the room, allowing them to examine its contents. There were several tanks filled with a transparent liquid, similar to those Lith's group had found in the first building. One cylindrical tank held a female tech in what they could only hope was a state of suspended animation. Her exoskeleton was pierced by tubes in several places, flooding her body with liquids of different colors. The liquid's nature was a mystery, but their purpose was as clear as the day. The poor creature was forced to produce eggs non-stop. Each one was the size of an orange and was made of a translucent pearly substance holding a smaller golden sphere at its center. The second tank held another tech that had to be a male. Based on the extra tube on his nether regions, he wasn't faring any better than his unwilling breeding mate. Another tank, this one shaped like an aquarium, contained several tech younglings the size of a 10-year-old child. Their diet seemed to be based on defective tech eggs, deformed tech younglings, and the corpses of those who died in the constant struggle for food and space. The white of their chitinous bodies looked blue due to all the tech blood spilled inside the tank. The battle for survival was so fierce that the water filters weren't capable to keep up with the bloodshed. The younglings were currently chopping a newborn tech with their pincers and eating its remains. This is a nightmare. Those poor creatures are being turned into cannibals. Only the most ferocious and the strongest among them have any chance of survival. Her blade shone of a black light, ready to unleash several spells, but Lith stopped Floria from crossing the threshold. We can't risk triggering more alarms. Also, we don't know if we can safely open the portal from the other side and get back into the caves. Lith said. Also, you have yet to explain to me what do you think happened after Sindri used Corona Discharge. As if you don't know it already, but thanks, Floria said while regaining her cool and clutching her estoc so hard that her knuckles turned white. The lightning must have struck in between waves, otherwise you would have seen the gates. That way, it could fry the techs and destroy the runes. When the system attempted and failed to open the gates again, it must have tried to open them in succession from the closest to the farthest, riding along the wave until it beat Corona Discharge to the punch and swallowed the spell. It makes sense, Lith nodded, trying to think about something to say to keep Floria's mind occupied. The procedure taking place in front of them was something disgusting to the point that any sane person would have their stomach churning. It must be because of people like the ODI that magical beasts prefer suicide and filicide to let themselves captured. He thought. What do you want to do, Captain Ernez? Lith used her military rank to remind her of their situation, but most importantly, of her status. If we go inside and activate traps that block even one of the elements, we might not be able to escape with dimensional magic. We can destroy the tanks from here, but there's no telling what defensive mechanisms are in place. I had no intention of doing either. Floria's eyes were as cold as ice. I just wanted to take a peek inside and check if we can use the ancient gates to raid the place. Arrays? Lith waved his hand, and several magical formations became visible to the naked eye. What the heck? Floria blurted out. There wasn't a single centimeter of space covered by at least 2 arrays. I recognize only the lighting and the self-cleaning array. Same. The others use runes too old for me to know them. Is there any you recognize? Based on what Nishal had said, the same runes were used for both arrays and forge mastering, so Lith had actually decent foundations for runesmithing. Or at least he hoped so. Yes, that is the ancient rune for fire. She pointed at a glowing character that resembled an English P. That is the rune for darkness. The character resembled an M overlapping with an X. And that one is the rune for air. The others I have no idea what they mean. If Lith had to describe it, he would compare the rune to something drawn by someone who sneezed with their pen on the paper. My paranoid guess is that fire is for intruders. Darkness is for the techs, in the case they manage to escape, and air is an alarm. Lith said. Agreed. Now we have to wait and see if the gate has some defensive mechanism too. I wouldn't be surprised if opening it by our side required some kind of convened signal. Floria was cautious. Her spite for the ODI only made her more vigilant. Can you tell me if there's any difference between ancient and modern runes? Lith asked. Ancient runes were less efficient and more unstable. That's all I can share with you without endangering Dad. Damn, then both the ring and the sword are only good as teaching props. At least thanks to Floria now I know the ancient runes for dimensional items. I can compare them with the modern ones I know and start experimenting already. Lith thought. Just as Floria predicted, after a handful of seconds the alarm array was triggered. It emitted a high-pitched sound and activated the other arrays in the rooms as the dimensional door was closing. Well, the damage is done. We learned what we needed so we might as well crash this party for good. She unleashed her Tier 5 Mage Knight spell, Blade of Destruction before the gate disappeared. For a moment, Lith could see a great mass of darkness and lightning magic take form inside the room. Noises of shattering glass and screeching metal filled the air just for a split second. The dimensional door was now sealed again and silence returned. Floria damaged the dimensional rune on the wall she had just repaired to prevent further attacks from the meat shields. I know that what I did was seemingly useless. The techs in the tanks were probably comatose or raving mad and I doubt there's only one such a room in Kula. I did it because this way the smoke should point us to the right building. Floria said. Our orders are to find and destroy anything that can harm the Griffin Kingdom, and I think that a monster farm qualifies. I also did it because, orders or not, I can't see such things and do nothing. I joined the army because I want to make a difference for the citizens of the kingdom, humans and beasts alike. Some people might consider my actions just a drop in the ocean, but to me, it was saving them from a fate crueler than death. Floria opened a warp steps that brought the straight back to the camp. After showing to the professors the arrays revealed by Lith's spell and describing them the alarm mechanism, their next course of action became clear.